Westerville! What it is? What up, Sal? Hey, we're gonna show this class how to do the quad song. All you gotta do is...
You guys missed class? Oh, you missed out on the party. We was in here. It was jumping. Do the quad saw, quad saw, do the quad saw, do the quad saw, saw, quad saw, do the quad saw, quad saw.
Everybody listen, pay attention class. We're about to solve quads so that y'all can pass. X is what we're after.
All right, so if you guys missed class, oh man, you missed out on the video. You can check it out online. Go to YouTube. I might put a link on Google Classroom. But anyways, let's get to the review of this 9.4 Introduction to Quadratic Formula, which all you guys love so much, right? Okay, so I want to go over this because I know that this topic can be a little difficult for everyone. Now, if we have an equation like this one here, x squared minus 2x minus 24, and I told you to solve that for x. Well, you guys would do this. You would say, oh, okay, Mr. Osborne, I can use the x, and I don't need the box because the first number is 1. So I put negative 24 on the top, then negative 2 on the bottom, and I figure out what those numbers are, and you go, oh, I know, Mr. Osborne, it's 6 and 4. And then negative 6, and then the 6 has to be negative because the bigger number has to be negative since this one's negative on the bottom. And then you say, okay, I can go straight to making my parentheses or factors. And the first one would be x minus 6, and then x plus 4. And you say, oh, Mr. Osborne, I remember. X is a liar. X is a liar, right? So that means, sorry, x is a liar. So that means our answer is not negative 6, it's positive 6. And it's not positive 4, it's negative 4. Okay? Now, let's go to the next one. So again, you would see this problem here, x squared, let's zoom up a little bit, minus 3x minus 1. And you'd say, okay, Mr. Osborne, I know this one too. There's a 1 in the front, so totally that means I'm going to do the x. Hey, look, new color. So I'm going to put my negative 1 up here, my negative 3 down here, and then you're like, okay, I got this. Okay, well, the only numbers that multiply to 1 are 1 and 1. And one of them has to be negative. But there's no way that could be a negative 3. So how's that going to work? Well, guess what? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Scratch it out. It doesn't work. Okay? So if it doesn't work, there must be a different way, right? Because there's no other option. What about GCF? Well, but then none of the x's are the same. So that's not going to work either. What about zero product? But we need parentheses. That's not going to work either. So how do we solve this? There is a solution, I promise you. And that solution is called the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. And it's used for finding x-intercepts, just like we've always been doing. When we find that answer and it says x equals, those numbers are our x-intercept. Okay? And this works with any quadratic equation, this formula. But we usually want to use it as a kind of a last resort, because the other methods are a lot faster. This one takes a little longer. So if nothing else works, like in this problem, then we have to use the quadratic formula. Now let's think back and remember how the standard form of any quadratic, let's just give an example of one. Or let's actually look at the one that we just looked at a second ago. Y equals x squared minus 3x minus 1. Okay? Well, the standard form says that a times x squared plus bx plus c is the standard form for a quadratic. And if you notice, what's the same here? Well, they have x squared and x squared. They have x, and then there's some number or something that doesn't have an x. Okay, so how do they relate? How are they the same? or first remember that in front of this x squared there's always a 1 if there's nothing there. And each of those numbers has a name. This 1 represents A. The negative 3 represents B. And the 1 represents, negative 1 represents C. And that's going to be important to know when we write out our formula. And the formula is, dun, 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 dun. I will show it to you in many different ways. Because it's everywhere, I'm telling you. I'm not lying to you. This is not like something I made up. The quadratic formula is everywhere. Look, I searched quadratic formula on Google. Look at all these quadratic formulas. I got videos, I got help sites, all kinds of stuff, right? What if I push images? What happens? Oh my gosh, it's everywhere. Look, it's right there. Oh my gosh, it's right there. Oh my gosh, it's right there. It's everywhere. Look at all these pictures of quadratic formula. Colors, all kinds of stuff. Okay? Even look, Wikipedia has it. It talks about the history. And there was this guy Euclid who they say discovered it. Okay? But they also say that Babylonians discovered it. Man, those Babylonians are pretty cool people. They must be discovering a lot of stuff, right? Okay, so quadratic formula is negative 1 times B plus and minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. Oops, that line's a little too long. All of this over, or divided by, 2 times A. Okay? Now, where did all this stuff come from? Well, there is a place that all this stuff came from, but I'll have to show you that in the class another day. Where did this equation come from, in other words? All right? But let's just go with it. We have an equation, it works, and we got to know it and how to use it. Okay, so our A, again, remember over here was 1. So here's the A. Here's another A. Okay, that's the same letter we were talking about over here on the left. Then here's our B. It's here and here. It's both multiplied times negative 1 and it's squared. And then the last letter that we brought over was the C. And that shows up one time right here underneath the square root. Okay, so here's our formula. And this formula does not change. So that negative 1 there, it won't change. It'll be negative 1 every time you use it. Here, the 2, it'll be 2 every time we use it. This 4, it'll be negative 4 every time you use it. And every day you'll hear the bell, and every time you hear the bell, you think, oh, I got to run to class on time. Okay, that was just whatever. All right, anyways. I just got interrupted by the bell, that's why I said that. Okay, so now we're going to use this formula. Negative 1 times B plus and minus square root of B squared minus 4A times A times C divided by 2 over A. So let's see how we use that. So let's go to the next one. And the next one is y equals x squared plus 10x minus 24. And it says use the zero product property. Well, that means do this. Use our x. 24 over 10. Two numbers are 12 and 2. And we have to subtract them, so the 2 has to be negative. Set up my factors. First one is x plus 12, and the second one is x minus 2. And then we'll have x is a liar, so that means that it's negative 12 and positive 2. Okay, so here's the deal. The next question, number 4, is the same equation. We're going to look for the same answer, but we're going to use the quadratic formula this time. So the answers, should they be the same? Yes. You should end up with negative 12 and 2 in your answer down here. Okay, so again, every time you do these problems, I want you to write down as practice, especially if you're watching this video and you feel like you need more help, I want you to practice writing this formula down. As soon as I can open this. Okay, so let's write it down first. So x equals negative 1. I'm sorry, I'm having some issues here. Negative 1 times b plus and minus b squared minus 4 times a times c okay, divided by 2. (2a). Okay, now again, remember up here. Oh wow, sorry. We can back it up at our equation. Our a, which is this number, or this letter, is going to be 1. Because remember, the 1 is in front of the x squared. Then our b, which gets plugged in here, is going to be 10. And then our c is going to be negative 24. Okay? So let's go ahead and plug those numbers in. So x equals negative 1 times b, which is 10, so we plug in 10, plus and minus square root of b squared, which is 10 squared, minus 4, remember it's always 4, times 1, which is our a, times c, which is negative 24. So remember, all you're doing is plugging in the numbers that you already know from your equation or your function. Then at the bottom, it's 2 times the a, which is 1. Okay? So now, let's simplify this. So negative 1 times 10, it's just negative 10. Then let's simplify the square root. Well, 10 squared, that's 100. And then negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then times negative 24, well, that's positive 26, so plus 96. All over 2 times 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. Okay? Move this over a little bit. Okay, so now, keep simplifying. Can't do anything with this 10, or negative 10, but I can simplify the square root, so 100 plus 96 is 196, divided by 2. Okay, keep simplifying. Can't do anything with the negative 10 still. Negative 10 plus and minus. Oops. The square, but I can take the square root of 196. Square root of 196 is 14. And remember, it's still divided by 2. Now here's where it's really important, is you got to remember that it's plus and minus. So that means you're going to end up with 2 different answers. So you're going to have to evaluate this or simplify it 2 different ways. So let's split it up. So the first way, we're going to do plus. So negative 10 plus 14. Oops. Negative 10 plus 14 divided by 2. And then the second answer will be negative 10 minus 14 divided by 2. So now, on the left here, it would be negative 10 plus 14. Well, that's 6, or positive 6, divided by 2. And then negative 10 minus 14, well, that's negative 24, divided by 2. And then that way we can arrive back at our answer. Because then let's simplify. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and negative 24 divided by 2 is negative 12. So sorry, your teacher just had a moment. I realized that I made a mistake right here. Because negative 10 plus 14 is not 6. That was the last problem, sorry. It's actually 4. Okay, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. How did I realize that? Because remember, the answers have to be the same, so that brings up a good point. If the answers are not the same, then you did something wrong. And I did something wrong, and I realized that. So then I found my mistake, and it does match. So now it's 2 and negative 12. They match. Okay? So hopefully this helps you guys. Let me know if you need more help. All right, bye.